we live?
We are live.
Go,
Brett.
I know there's so we informed them they can fix it.
Brett's having technical difficulties.
Todd, I think you may have an issue.
Yeah,
Who?
I've got Twitter. I just removed it. It's all good.
Let's see.
Okay,
Say hi to
how's
everybody,
that?
Brett.
There we go. I think we are live now.
Yeah.
Super live.
Yeah.
Super live, you guys. Welcome
Top
everybody.
7 tech guys lost.
That's right. Oh, you know what? Hold on.
Oh man, what do we got going on here?
There we go.
The misfits.
I'm like, I hear everybody in my desktop system behind me. So you guys, thank you. Sorry for the quick delays in the moment, trying to get 7 people all streaming basically to their own channels, or at least 5 people streaming out to multiple channels. So no matter where you are, you can definitely find this stream tonight. So what's going on, Mike? Great to see you guys. So we are here for a lot of stuff. So we're gonna talk a little bit about CEDIA and all the cool stuff we saw. We got our VIP experience in Soundroom 4, so I'm sure we'll dig into that a little bit. And then I also just want to talk about what was cool at CEDIA, what new technologies are out there. And then I'm going to be hosting a few different kind of live streams over the next probably 8 weeks, or going through until kind of December. So also want to get some feedback from you guys on what you guys would like to see and what the priorities are. So first off, though, and most important, we want to make sure that we congratulate Mike Schramm.
Make him big. Put him like real big.
Oh, God.
Can I make him big?
Make him big.
Okay, let's see here.
Make them big. There we go.
Make him big. There we
Come
go.
on.
Solo layout.
There you go.
Okay. All right.
There he is.
There we go. So
Mikey
I'm going to leave it
Strauss.
here for a minute, Mike. So we got
Love it.
So
Yeah,
for
we're all gonna
anybody
talk over you.
that doesn't know, a few weeks before CEDIA, so I had already planned to kind of do this event with some of the, some of my favorite content creators, who most of which are on here. A few people couldn't make it. And we were going to set it up in Soundroom 4. They gave me the room for a little while. And then I was actually talking with Michael Stevens over at Youthman on there, and we'll give everybody a chance to say hi in a minute. But we were talking, and I said, well, what if, like, normally I say, hey, if you're in Colorado, I'll get you a free pass. Like, that's pretty easy for me to do relatively. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we actually, like, flew somebody out? Like, you go in the forums, and there's always, people talking about, as you kind of get into July and August, talking about CEDIA, and how much they'd love to go, and kind of a bucket list trip for people, since it is primarily for dealers. And so with like 3 weeks before CEDIA, I ran a contest for 2.5 weeks. So I had a couple days. Literally, I think I was booking Mike's flights like the Saturday before I was flying out on Sunday. But yeah, so we ran through the drawing. We had 250 people enter, and they ended up, or no, it must have been 450 people enter. That ended up being 2,200 entries, because you could get extra entries for doing different things, checking out everybody's channels and stuff like that. And Mike happened to have the most entries. So you can see the most entries. It works when you start pulling them out. So Mike ended up with, I think, like 44 or 46 entries. It was really cool. I'll take you off the center stage there, Mike.
There you go.
Appreciate that.
Mike said he
But-
cheated.
That's right. Yes.
Hey, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So
Hey,
That's right. That's right. But it was
What are you, a
actually
Patriots
really
fan?
it was really cool, because when we started talking about it, and I was actually on Todd's channel, and so we were doing a little promo for it on AV Nirvana, and Mike was actually on there and saying, like, hey, how can I do this? Or, there's a secret word. And so then I put out a secret word on AV Nirvana. So we got that one. And yeah, my biggest fear in doing a contest like this was I didn't promote it out a whole lot. I didn't push it out to Facebooks and all those. I just had the content creators on their channels put it out, so that hopefully the winner would be somebody that that appreciated it. And so I was so happy because that was my only fear in this. Happy to do it, happy to pay for it. Just don't let it be somebody who couldn't care less
Right.
about home theater and CEDIA and just wants a free trip out to Denver so they could go see Giles. But yeah, so congratulations on there, Mike. I'm gonna pop this banner off there. But I'm glad you got to come out, and we're gonna talk in the next hour here about what you got to see, what everybody got to see, but especially coming from your perspective, having never been to CEDIA. I think that's really, really cool to be able to check out. So before we do that, though, want to shout out some appreciation to everybody that's on here who also helped me to promote it. So we'll go ahead and start from the top middle here, I guess. So that's DJ. What's going on, DJ?
Oh, not much. Just a little chatting going on with some of the people in the room.
I see.
Hey, thanks for having me in. And Brett, everything you've done for this. I mean, we know your history and everything and all you do for home theater and for all of us, but organizing this whole thing and everything that you did for that night was incredible. It was only my second CEDIA, and being able to see it with Mike and experience it again for, seeing it through his eyes and watching him walk through the room for the first time. And that was pretty incredible. So, I mean, and we owe it all to you. I mean, everybody in this room owes it to you, Brett. So you're the brainchild, and you did all the effort for it. So thank you very much. But yeah.
I appreciate that. And, like I said, for me, you guys have invited me on your channels, and I love what you guys do and what you guys put out there content wise. So I was, just happy to do it. How often do we all get to sit through those 15-minute demos that all the booths are doing, right? I mean, everybody can do that if you're at the show. Although you got to wait in line sometimes 40 minutes for it.
Yeah.
At least for us regular people, maybe not everybody here. But yeah, so to be able to sit in there for basically 3 to 4 hours, going through clips, going through music, it was a blast to be able to do. So
yeah, and that's my show. It's sights, sounds, and scenes, and that's all the experiences, right? And the experience you provided for us was absolutely incredible. To sit in that, over $1 million room, playing music, just tooling around, having a good time. It's like, where can we do that? I mean, remember, guys, some of the people like, this didn't sound like this in my Corolla when I was a kid. Some of the music we were listening to. Like, what?
Yeah, we're definitely having
awesome.
some fun with some 90s rap tracks.
Yeah. What's the next song we can hit with the bass?
That's right.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, and DJ, for anybody who doesn't know on here, DJ is with Brightside Home Theater. And it's an awesome podcast where they mainly talk about movies, typically.
Yep.
Every once in a while we go on and we talk about some product and things like that. But that's what I love about this group is everybody has kind of a slightly different spin on things. And so if you love movies and want to chat about them, then, definitely hit up his site there. So, Mike Schramm, I'm going to run to you. Otherwise we go after, but, you were the winner. So why don't you give us just 30-second background on you and what you thought and everything else.
All right, 30-second background. I'm just a home theater nut. I am not involved in the industry at all. I'm actually a teacher. So just, listen to the podcast, watch the YouTube videos, heard about the contest, and decided to throw my hat in the ring. I tried really hard. To be fair, I tried really hard to win this contest, and it all worked out. So, yeah, that's me. I'm just the Joe Schmo that won the contest.
Hey, I love it. Like I said, that's exactly who it was designed for. So more than super happy to have you out there. We got to spend a lot of time together, especially that Saturday afterwards too. So so that was an absolute blast. So hopping right down below you, we have Mr. Michael Stevens on the Youthman channel. And I'm sure most people know who you are, Michael, but give us a little 30-second on there for you.
So I'm the guy that probably the oldest dude here, probably.
No, I got you. I got you beat. I don't know why.
We're all old dudes here.
Actually, Michael just
Definitely older than you, Michael.
So Michael, you literally just had a birthday, correct?
I did 49.
49.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
you're young.
You might be the youngest person here.
Nope.
No, that'd be Mike.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike says, I am proud to
I
claim that one.
I thought I saw something that said that you were younger than that, Michael. So you do have me beat by a couple years, but not much. I'm at 47. I'll be 48 next. On the 21st.
There you go. Yeah, but I've been just passionate and obsessed with home theater since the days of ProLogic. Worked at Circuit City. Used to go to a place called Sound Advice every weekend as a kid. When I had my car at 16, and so I would go into all these showrooms like what we had to experience, but much smaller scale, and just kind of drool and dream that, man, one day if I could ever have something like that, that would be just incredible. And never really thought that would happen, as a 16-year-old guy working at Ponta Grossa, making minimum wage, but figured, just chase the passion, and I did. And just over the years, just began to buy and build and to grow, and then somehow that ended up going on to, I was active in a lot of the forums for a long time, and then from there I ended up starting posting some videos of it on YouTube, and found out I actually like doing that, and I love it, educating and trying out new products and just sharing my passion with the world, really. And then it ended up becoming a career. So it's been a pretty wild journey over the past 7 years.
Oh, very cool. So we'll pop over to you, Todd, in just a second, but I wanted to just highlight a few of you guys have been jumping on there with this, but Frankie, it's such a cool thing to do, right? Rarely, sometimes I know, especially after I've introduced a few and you guys have introduced me to a few, but usually it's only like maybe two guys on, right? And he kind of co-hosts the one. DJ's great with that because he loves to do his Takeover Tuesdays where he'll let somebody else kind of jump in. But yeah, this is really, how often do you get to see 5, 6, 7 people, on here at the same time? So I feel very thankful and blessed for that. But and we're glad you were able to join, Frankie. So, Todd, Mr. AV Nirvana.
Yeah, yep. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, again, a great site that I've watched and done stuff for years with, and when I was at Kaleidoscape, we actually got some chances to do some stuff together, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, let's. I'm sure again, most people know who AV Nirvana is, but let's get a little breakdown on how you got into this, Todd, and what the channel is all about.
Yeah, and just to echo what DJ was saying, I think it's really awesome what you pulled off, and I know Mike behind the scenes had told me on day one when it was announced, he was like, "Oh gosh, I really wish I could make it down there for that." And I was hoping that it was going to be Mike, and turned out to be Mike. So I think it's really awesome. Mike does some moderation stuff with us, and he's an active on our forum. So it was really cool to see him out there. And also, I've been at this now for about 13 or 14 years, and it's really cool to see it through fresh eyes, even though I feel like I'm seeing it through fresh eyes every time I go to these events. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I still get really excited and jacked up about all the technologies and chatting with people and seeing everybody. So, but it's really cool to see it through somebody else's fresh eyes. So hats off to you, Brett. I think it's really, really awesome that you did this.
Thank you.
My origin story, I mean, it's a little different than like what Michael was talking about. I actually started off more down the 2-channel route. Back in the late 80s, I started collecting vinyl. My brother had a friend who was huge into collecting indie vinyl from England, and going down to this club in Washington, D.C. called the 930 Club, which is this legendary destination here on the East Coast. And somehow I convinced my parents to start letting me go down to see some bands when I was in like 9th and 10th grade. Why they were letting me go down to that area of the city, I guess they just didn't know that much about it. But that really kicked off my passion for collecting vinyl and building my first 2-channel setup with a turntable and an Onkyo amp and everything. And eventually that passion kind of faded away and transitioned into home theater. And for me, I guess probably 25 years ago, it was this cheap little, I think it was called a ProScan CRT TV, and I would set up some cheap AOS speakers and try and simulate something that sounded good. And, it just spiraled off from there. Kind of like Michael was saying, you start going down the rabbit hole. And, for me, in terms of getting involved in the kind of the media side of things, I just really enjoy writing about, the industry. So I found somebody along the way that gave me a shot and parlayed that off into a bunch of freelance work that I've done over the years. And now, we have our own site. So, I just CEDIA got me all jazzed up, and that buzz has not left me yet. I just think it's a really cool environment. I love seeing you guys out there and other folks in the industry, and seeing all the new things and getting the lowdown on what we can look forward to in the future. It's just a lot of fun. So
cool. Well, yeah, no doubt. There's always new stuff, so it is fresh eyes. But I agree. It was kind of fun to see it from somebody who doesn't get it. That I think was my 20th or 21st CEDIA.
Yeah.
So as much as, and usually I would be first in, last out. So we'd build the booth, we'd work the booth, we'd tear down the booth. So usually, even this year, I flew in on Sunday night and then left Saturday afternoon. So it's a little bit different of an experience from there, where no matter how cool it is, you're still a little tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a blast every year. I love going, and I'm fortunate that I've been able to go so many times. So, to the left or right of you, depending on which way the screen goes, I guess. But we have Mr. Joe Klesnick, who I will say is my neighbor relative to everybody else. He's about 30 minutes away from me, but 30 minutes is a lot closer than some of the others. And Joe, you don't have your own channel on it, but you've hosted on a good portion of these and jumped on, and you host on a lot of other channels as well. So, a good friend of mine and somebody that introduced me to DJ, who I think introduced me to Giles as well, way back when. So, I was happy to have you out there and help me out a little bit and all that kind of stuff. So, want to say a quick hi and kind of how you got into it?
Hi, guys. Thanks for letting me be here. I started out in the car audio side of things and did some 2-channel, got into home theater. Currently, I'm a CEDIA certified designer, part-time integrator, occasional podcast host. Love CEDIA and everything it represents on the education side and everything else. Mike, it's good to see you again in person. But yeah, that's kind of my background.
And down below, he gets his own prime spot. I should have seen if I could move Mike down there. Exactly. But that's right.
You actually can.
I had a
No,
perfect
we're good.
lens. I could just widen it out.
That's right. You want to widescreen that bad boy out there?
That's right.
We need to push that to at least 2.4.
No, it's creator width. Let's go.
That's
All the way up.
2.7. Yeah,
Yeah.
2. Yeah. Love it. But we have, again, a good friend, Giles McCoy, who I love being on his show and love having him on mine. And, Giles, you do a lot of really cool stuff. So I'll let you kind of take it up and, how you got started into it and what your channels are all about.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for the invite, not only to this, but to all of the CEDIA events as well. I'm sure I feel like everybody else, and we're all very grateful for the community, right, and the opportunity. So, thank you for that. As far as my origin story, I wish it was more like Bruce Wayne, but well, I guess that would be horrific in a way too. A lot of money, but tragedy. So maybe not.
Wish my
So you're
parents were
saying
shot
you
in an
wish your
alley.
parents? Yeah, no.
Yeah, there are no superheroes who are as good. It doesn't seem. In any event, I am the guy that loves the gear. I love all the stuff. And I find it really difficult to limit myself to one thing. So, if you go to my channel, you can see a sweet microwave oven review that I just did, because I am literally all over the place all the time, and I can't help it. I love stuff and toys and but more than that, I love the community that grows around all this stuff, right? And that really harkens back to what we're doing here tonight. It's all about the community. But the reason I made my first video was because my wife told me to. And in the vernacular of my channel, she's the one that I always call the CFO. So the CFO said that I needed to make a video about I think it was like a Denon processor, AVR, way back in the day, and that was it. Several years, many years, too many years, I don't know. Later, here I am, and this is it's not a career for me. It's a hobby. I've got a full-time day job, as I call it. I'm sure that my job wouldn't like day job.
That thing I do sometimes.
I've got a professional career that I've been doing forever and plan to do forever. But this is a passion for me, and I enjoy the gear and enjoy the people.
No doubt. Well, like I said, I always love watching everybody's content. So for me, it's always cool to pull everybody together with this. And we're gonna see if you pop something up on here. There we go. I had it up here a second ago. So Van Gool, though, had been asking. He said he had a question that he wanted to ask. So absolutely, drop it in the comments, and we will take a look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. In the meantime, though, so I'll pop that up when he gets his question in there, and then we can take a look at it at that point. But in the meantime, I do want to kind of get into everything that we were looking at, and for everybody else, the event that everybody keeps talking about. Let's show his stuff. He popped it up there. So we'll do this. We'll do this one first.
Last second.
Hey, we got to take care of the guests, right? So I saw Youthman on your ELAC 3.0 review.
I'm looking up his AVR. So it's a 7.2 channel AVR, 75 watts a channel. I need to look at I don't remember what the
sensitivity was. That's what I was going to ask you. So
ELAC debut. I don't recall. It's funny because we were actually talking about this behind or backstage. When you film and edit a video, typically I just move on, man. I'm on the next thing. And so hey, do you remember? I'm like, dude, I'm big. It's like this. Film, you edit, you post, you create
or at
the
least
thumbnail.
If you see it in the comments, you kind of at least see that video and you can kind of go back to it. But
a lot of times I have to go back to my own videos and watch them and go, oh yeah, I did say that, or I don't know what he was talking about. All right, let's
so Van Gool, if you got so let's say we want a little bit more information on here from you. If you happen to know what the sensitivity on those speakers are, otherwise maybe we'll see in here.
Yeah,
it sounds like if we're talking about a 7-channel Denon processor,
so these are 87 dB, so they're definitely not super sensitive.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna need some
also
power.
let me ask you this: how many speakers are you powering with that AVR? Because that's going to matter. I'm actually doing a video right now on adding an external amplifier and why you would want to do that sometimes. So if you were powering, say, all seven channels with that 70 watts per channel AVR, by the time you add 7 speakers to it, you might be down to like 40 watts or 35 watts a channel. Could still be fine, but when you've got inefficient speakers, to me, inefficient's like anything under 90. And so when it's 87 dB, you've got to double the amplification to gain 3 decibels in volume. But if you're only powering 2, then you're still going to be able to enjoy those speakers for sure. And they're not monster speakers, so they don't have big woofers, so you don't have to worry about that.
Also, you're not dumping power to all 5 speakers at the same time. I mean, rarely, especially your side channels. So
usually it's actual demo pieces.
I'd also say how big is the room and how far are you sitting away from it?
Yeah, so there's a lot
running for speakers.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Van Gool, if you want to post a comment, or if you're on my channel or wherever,
he's got 5 speakers that he's powering with it.
Okay, so 5.1. And if that one doesn't have a preamp, so
probably not.
It's gonna work. You're not gonna get a ton of power out of it. And that's the issue when you have an AVR that's sharing out of one power bank and it's sharing to as many speakers as needed. So like Michael said, if you were doing a 2-channel stereo system, then you're gonna at least get a fair amount of that power in there. When you start doing a 5.1, 7.1, then it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And that's something I know we all have the gear that we have. So, so again, set it up and they're fine. But generally, if you have a receiver like that, if you can find, just like Michael was saying, something that's above 90, then you're gonna get more power out of it. That's where a lot of people go with the clips, and you see a lot of people in their clip setups in the beginning because they're so efficient. So once people start moving up there, I mean, there's a ton of great choices in there. And I know sometimes they get a bad rap in the forums. In general, people love to bash on the biggest guy in the room.
They love to poop on them.
Yeah. And so
let your ears be the guide.
That's right.
So definitely look at all that kind of stuff when you're looking at a receiver like that. And then if you get into something bigger, I would definitely recommend, or if somebody's looking to get their next receiver, get something with preamps. You may not use it. You're going to spend, $100 more, $200 more. But then, the other than adding something new, other than Atmos and whatever the next new thing will be, which I think we're a few years away from really seeing that. It gives you that opportunity that AVR is now driving the decoding and everything else, and then just sends it to whatever amplifier you want. So that's the only thing that I would recommend in there. And everybody else, if you're looking for a receiver, definitely get something, an all-in-one AVR is great. But if you can get one with preamps, you're going to be able to keep it for a lot longer, in scenarios like this where you're trying to upgrade stuff.
Just to say also, I mean, if you have that sub in there, that's going to do some of the heavy lifting too on the power side of things. So you might be able to squeeze out a 5-channel system with that amp.
Yeah, which
might
is
be
very
pushing it though. But
if you don't have control over like sending more power to the to the front stage or doing different things like that, but to Todd's point, you're not always. Oftentimes, a single speaker, not including the sub, is only using 5 to 10 watts. It doesn't really need to get as much power to get loud. It's really the subwoofers that that take a lot of that power. So
yeah,
that
Joe's
RC50
point also that the size of the room is going to matter.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that RZ50 you called out is a huge upgrade. That's a pretty sweet piece. And the RZ70 at $2,000 is one of the best deals on the market right now. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I think the LX805 is at $1,500 right now. Also,
it's a wonderful time we live in.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
And don't even be scared to look even in the used market. A lot of times you can find some really great deals on a 1-year, 2-year-old, or 3-year-old AVR. Somebody else wanted the latest, greatest. You don't necessarily need a 11-channel processor. They were
100%.
upgrading to 11-channel, and now they're selling their 7.1. You only need 5.1, so that's a nice upgrade for you. It may have pre-outs. I can't tell you how many receivers I bought when I first started out. They were $1,200 receivers, and I'd buy them for $400 because they were 2 or 3 years old. Sure. So you can even look at that. So accessories for less, you mentioned that. Yeah, absolutely. Those are refurbs. They get the same exact warranty as the manufacturer. Definitely good options.
I'm always a big refurb fan because somebody looked at it, and usually what I say is you get that luck of the draw. That's why it became a refurb. Was that there was something probably wrong with it? Sometimes they're just returns. And there's literally nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, they can't sell it. Yep.
Yeah, but otherwise, like I said, you get the refurb, you get the warranty, you get everything else, and somebody actually put their hands on it to make sure that everything worked before they put it up for sale. So
yeah, now's a great time for refurb stuff because I started doing that as well 20, 30 years ago, but tech was advancing so fast that you were always a little bit behind the curve with the tech. Now, since 4K, HDR, and Atmos, not really much has changed. They've improved it a little bit, but like when you come to projectors, television, displays, receivers, the tech is all pretty much the same. You're just getting 2 years older, right? And it's like it might not be as fancy looking, or maybe it's got a little scratch in the side of it, but you're putting it in a rack anyways. Who cares? But the tech has pretty much been the same for the last 4 or 5 years.
Nope, totally agree. So, Van Gool, like I said, if you drop a comment, not necessarily right in here, although we'll see it, but maybe in the video afterwards, so that I know myself or anybody else can kind of take a look at it, depending on what live stream you're on. Then that'll work. Or you can always reach out to me at Brett So BRETT at FAQNatics.com. And I'm always happy to help you out there as well. So, but like I said, it sounds like you're on the right track, especially as you started looking at the Onkyo and some other options in there too. So we'll go ahead and hop back into this. I just want to make sure we got his question answered in there. But CEDIA and Soundroom 4. So for those of you guys that maybe didn't see the entries in there, you know, and the contest in general, the real cool idea was that Soundroom 4 was basically partnered up between 5 different brands. So we had Seymour Screen Excellence, so Chris Seymour out there. We had Storm Audio out there. We had Christie Digital out there. We had Lumigen. We had Ascendo, and we had Movia Seating. So actually, that's 6. And so those were the main key partners. Now, of course, there was a Kaleidoscape in there, and there were, you know, cables and, you know, all those different kinds of things that go in. But those were the main 5 partners that really split the cost and brought in all the equipment. And so the total tally on that room for equipment wise was $1 million, which, as we all know, is a huge amount that makes it at the top 1%. And you know, it's not a system that I'm like, hey, you should go out and buy. Although if you can, by all means, go for it. I'm not going to hate on it. But the reality here is that we're talking about dealers coming in, trying to really see the best of the best. And so you don't show your bottom level, you show your top level. And then that really kind of shows the dealers like, hey, these are the brands that I want to play with because they make some amazing equipment. And then, oh, by the way, they have 4 levels down of equipment too. You know, Ascendo's probably the biggest example of that because they had a big chunk of the dollar amount in there with all those subs and speakers and everything else. And so, you know, they had their 28, which launched, which was a 28-inch square subwoofer. That, as they say it, and I know some people have asked, I'm going to go back in and dig in with Jeffrey and the guys to kind of see some actual numbers to it. But basically, you know, they're stating that it would go, I heard 1 hertz, I heard 6 hertz, but all the way up to 600 hertz.
Single digits, yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's just absolutely nuts. And so, and we had 12 of them in the room. So, you know, like I said, it wasn't even really getting stressed in there, frankly. But really cool technology. But it's like, well, hey, again, cool product to go with. If you can swing it, absolutely. For one infrasonic, even, it would probably help you out at, you know, after you put in some basics. But they also had their Pro 16 in one of the other rooms. They had their, you know, 12s and everything else. So there's definitely other products. So really the idea is see the quality level that, you know, Ascendo in that case kind of puts out. And then dealers are like, hey, you know, I want to have something like that in my. So, but the opportunity for us was effectively unsupervised. I did invite Chris Seymour in there and excuse me, and Matthew Trinkline over at Storm, who both of these guys are amazing and they know all their stuff. And so just in case anything was going wrong, I wanted to make sure I kind of had him in there. But what was really cool is normally you go into these demos, they're about 10, 12 minutes. You wait in line for them and you just get to see the 3 or 4 clips that they wanted to show. Mm-hmm. Here, we were basically picking through everything that was in the Kaleidoscape book. We were having Matthew pull up his...
that was DJing back there.
Yeah, pulling up his title account to play us whatever we wanted. And so that was really the beauty of it, is how often do you get to play in $1 million theater, you know, where you basically have the keys to, you know, whatever you want to listen to. So, and whatever you want to watch. So, Mike, let's start with you. I mean, a lot of us, I know Michael does home theater tours and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of us have as well. So, Mike, what were your thoughts on the room? What was the experience like for you?
The room itself was incredible. It was absolutely more than anything I had ever experienced. Anything close. I mean, it's just blew it away. I guess my first big impact was the screen and the projector, because it looked like a giant OLED. It was, the colors were so vibrant. The blacks were just black. There was, you know, it wasn't a dark gray. It was a black. And it was gigantic. It's way bigger than my 77-inch TV that I got right over here. So yeah, that would have been my first, you know, jaw dropper. Would have been just the picture and the screen. And then, we went through so many demos and scenes. I can't tell you what came first, but I remember Dune 2 stuck out in my head when the Sanborn pop out and the 12 subs that they had in the room started going crazy. And yeah, I mean, it was just so far above anything that I have experienced that, it was overwhelming because there was so many things going on that I couldn't focus on just one. It was just, I was being overwhelmed with awesome. So it was incredible.
Oh, tremendous. Like I said, that's the hope, right? It can be a little overwhelming. We'll talk a little bit about some of my thoughts on it after everybody else gets a chance in there. But Giles, what do you think? You had a nice front row seat in there with us. What were your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think Ascendo kind of stole the show for the room. It's just such a great brand, and I really like that new subwoofer that they released. And there were 12 of them. I think they are able to take things to the extreme levels with the the 70 or 80, the really, really big stuff. But I think that subwoofer really feels a really nice niche for the size. Right now, the price is obviously expensive, right? You got to have some scratch to buy those. But for those that do, I think that's a really great product, and it's sealed. Which I like. It stole the show, and I think Ascendo is just making really great moves all around. They're embracing LED walls with their new center channels, and they have a couple of those out now. The Director, and then I think one of the something 10 that just came out. I saw an Instagram of that. So for me, they were the star of the show. Like Mike said, the projection was great. The Christie was doing heavy lifting in there. The Movia sofas. So I didn't get to see the ones in the back were different than the ones in the front, right?
I think they were all the same.
They were all the same. Yeah.
They had a different series in the adjacent room in movie room, sound room 3, I believe.
And they made
Todd found them very comfortable.
He fell asleep.
Yes, he did. But they may have changed the side pieces too, right? So the idea with the movie seats is the seat itself is 29 inches. So that's kind of cool because it's wider than most seats.
Yeah.
Not that we need wider and wider seats, but sometimes we do. And so I found them to be comfy where sometimes the single seats are just tight, right? You kind of sit in them, but you can feel the arms, you can, everything's right there. But they have the ability to change the side arms. So they may have changed the side arms in some of those, Giles. So that
okay, right on. Well. Yeah, no, for me, seating is super important. So I'll call that out. I don't know if I really like the material, but they were super comfortable. And then, Storm, how can you go wrong with Storm? It's great. I got some content from those guys coming up here pretty soon, so I'm excited for that. It was just a great room. So, thanks for, helping put all that stuff together. And Chris did a great job with us there that evening. Yeah. He's always awesome. So it's all good all the time.
Sweet. Well, love it. Todd?
Echo what Giles is saying about the low end in that room was crazy. It just was insane. I think, definitely 100% going toward Ascendo on that. And also, we really got to hear Art, the active room treatment in action in there. And if you were in the Trinov room, you also got to hear waveforming. Both are just a little bit different. They're both amazing in their own rights, but in my opinion, they're just a teeny bit different. And you could hear that in the Storm room. Just so clean, just really seems to stop on a dime in some of the really hard hitting moments of some of the demos we were able to hear in there.
No, I agree. And we got a chance, Mike got to listen to the Trinov room as well, which is an amazing room, right? So
unbelievable.
This is by no means like we happen to be in the sound room 4. This is not sponsored or a commercial. For the brands in there, it's just, hey, we got to actually dig into these. So, and I think they're all great brands. So, I love it for that. But yeah, I made sure I took Mike to the Trinov booth because it's an amazing system as well, right? And the per listen speakers and everything else. And I agree, it's a little bit different in there. but I also think you get like those rooms weren't the same, so there's still all these little pieces
Sure,
that
100%.
change for each of our rooms, right? And
It's also
so
a different caliber speaker too. I mean, our listens are amazing, but
Yeah.
you've got 1224s versus
and black swans on your front stage, right? So
yeah,
I mean,
it's a different scale for sure.
yeah, and a smaller room. We were in the back row, so that changes it a little bit in the turnout booth. But both were great, right? And I'm a fan of both. Like I said, I all the guys out there and Dave Pedigo and and John and Chuck and all those guys that are great for being in the forums and answering questions as well. So I always appreciate them there. But yeah, the Storm processor was just outrageous for what it's able to do. And I know Matthew spent a ton of time. They actually had 8 booths.
Yeah.
That Storm gave processors to, which it's not like you just give a processor.
Set them up, dial them in.
Yeah, Matthew then has to go into each of those rooms.
Right.
So this is where you see the difference. I know most of you guys have met him, but like Gary Blouse, and I love Gary for it. But I'm sure Gary's like, yeah, we can get you one in the room too.
Matthew's going, dang.
Yeah, I got another one.
Last year they had 6 rooms, and that really almost drove them into the ground. So they decided to go 8
with more.
This year.
Because why not? But they got it done, super quick. And again, hats off to the Storm team who was out there in force as well. They had Sebastian out there, so they were bringing a group of people out from France, to support the booths and those other manufacturers that they were partnered with. So, as I know Trinov did as well. So yeah, Joe, what were your thoughts on the room?
Whoops, Joe's frozen.
Joe fell asleep.
I think Joe's like when you're in the classroom and they put the fake picture up there of themselves.
Yeah.
He's all like, "This is what 2 minutes of latency looks like."
That's right.
2 minutes.
It was
Now,
so
Joe,
good. He's
checking his mailbox.
He's speechless.
That's right.
Here comes.
There we go. Come on, Joe.
Oh,
Oh,
you
tapped
can't make
out.
fun of me. I'm out of here.
He couldn't take a joke. No, just kidding. It obviously looked like he had some issues, so I'm sure he'll pop back on in a second. Michael, what about you? Thoughts in the room and
yeah, it's one of those things where this is a rare occurrence that you get to experience a room and multiple rooms of this caliber. You literally have the best of the best in the business coming together, collaborating to build. What's crazy is they build this room in like 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, think about
it. It's a few more than that. Everybody likes to say that. No,
well, it's less than a week though.
Yes. Oh,
right.
no doubt. It is.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal amount of work.
The physical build of that room and the calibration is a few days, whatever that is, 4 or 5 days. But the reality is them being able to do that in that small a time period. I mean, think about how many hours and days and weeks and months and years that we spend building our own theater rooms.
Yep.
But yet they come together and put together an amazing demo. And to be able to go in there and hang out for 3 hours is unheard of. So definitely a big thanks to Brett for pulling this all together and making this possible for all of us, and especially for Mike. Super cool opportunity for him. And I know Brett already is thinking, man, how can I do this again next year?
I want it bigger. As cool as it is, we got to bring one person, right? Which is tremendous. And I'm sure Mike's like, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
You only need one if you're the one who gets drawn.
Yeah.
But I would love
Mike doesn't realize is that Brett is going to bring one next year, and now Mike has to bring one. And every year,
that's right.
Every year the winner has to bring somebody the next year and pass that gift on.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Multiply this thing.
But yeah, I would. I really want, and that's one of the things here, you guys. And the only pitch I'll make to everybody watching and everybody watching over the next couple days, on the on demand is, I want to do stuff like this. My belief, and I've seen this, and I know it works, is that the real passionate consumers that want to buy this stuff, even the Trinovs and the Storms and the Ascendos, and they're in these forums. The amount of people that I see, and I know it's out of a lot of people's price range, and I've always taken it's above my price range and a lot of it too. I always take the, hey, but I still look at that as the upper limit, right? This is what you can do, but here's what I can do now. But I'd love to be able to share that with more people, and really get that out there and build it out to be even bigger and a couple more sound rooms. I would love, I think I was telling some of the guys, I want to do a home theater crawl at CEDIA. There's just so much cool stuff to do, but it's hard to do. And so, for any of you guys that are on here, I'd love if you could drop comments that, hey, this would be cool, or subscribe to my channel so that I can see kind of that influx of people that come in. I don't ever expect my channels to be as big as most of these guys on here. But like I said, I'm at almost 800. So if I can tap 1,000, then that allows me to go to some of the manufacturers and say, hey, look, the Sound Room 4 guys, they let me come into this room at night. They trusted me with that. It all went fine. Why don't you guys let me into your room too? And so, like I said, that's my only pitch on it. But I would appreciate that. I pulled up Donnie's post in here. Now, Donnie, I believe I asked you, and you were not, unfortunately, coming out to CEDIA this year, because you had an invite otherwise. That's why I asked you. So, but I know how you feel, man. I miss some of those parties too. Let's work to get you out to CEDIA next year, and you will absolutely be on the list. So, Don is actually, we were chatting the other day, and I got to follow up with you. Because we're going to talk about some remotes, but I believe Don is actually starting up his own channel as well. So, and if you haven't seen him, he's usually found on Audioholics, and so he does a lot of stuff on there, and so that's where you've probably seen him in the past. And so I look forward to seeing what he's doing, and maybe doing a couple of co-host things together. So.
Yeah, he'll be coming over to my house on Monday.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, tremendous.
Yeah, we talked about filming a video on how to set up 2-channel properly, because I'm not a 2-channel guy. But I thought, man, while you're here, let's have some fun.
Yeah.
You're going to help me set up my 2 speakers in my living room that I'm reviewing, and then let's share with my audience. Like, what does that look like? What's your process? How do you, what steps do you go through? And so we're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
He's going to bring the party.
Yeah, as he always does. Oh, we got Restrepo. I'm going to kind of look on here. Hey, what's going on, Michael? Happy to have you on here. We bumped into each other, but that was about all we got to see each other at CEDIA. But always good to see you. And let's see. Do we have anything more in there? So I think
communicate from Joe.
I just saw that.
Oh, I'll hit that up, Joe.
Goodness.
I agree with
I'll
that
hit that
comment,
up.
by the way. That was pretty awesome.
There you go. I was going to actually say that too, right? We were talking a lot about the audio. The masking that Seymour does. And, again, I got a chance last year to go check some of the stuff out. But as a lot of you guys know on here in general, in the viewers and everything else, Chris spends a lot of time in the forums. He answers questions. He does a lot of stuff from that perspective. And it was funny. I was talking with, I think it was Chris Deering a little before CEDIA, who does a lot of calibrations and things like that for people. And, his comment was, Chris, again, is one of those enthusiasts who saw the 1 or 2 other brands, not negative, so we'll say Stewart, that make phenomenal product, but their price level is just so high again, right? And so Seymour has really come in, and while his top high-end 4-way masking screens are not inexpensive, they are far more in the realm of what we might spend on a good screen. And he has different levels of screen that go with that as well, and for myself, I'm trying to figure out exactly what sizes will go into my theater build. But I'm planning to put a Seymour in there with like a 2-way mask. So I've got a constant width screen, and then basically I can adjust the top and the bottom masks to get me from a 16:9 to a 2:4. So it doesn't hit everything quite right, but again, a good 69 screen that goes across, really allows you to do a lot. And so I've always been really impressed. He's one of the only guys who does a mask that's still acoustically transparent. So if you think of that left and right channel on there, that's always tough, because if you put that masking to come in, and say a 16:9 off of a 2:4, you're probably covering right over your left and your right channels on your front stage. So the fact that it's acoustically transparent, but really just makes it pop. You know, when you don't have that white trim around it, it really does pop that much more. Not that we needed it in that room because that Christie screen or that Christie projector, you know, in that room, that was a Griffin. So that was putting out 35,000 lumens, 34,000 lumens, which is just phenomenal. Yeah.
Right.
And I don't even think it was pegged, and it was still doing, you know, I think it was like 500-600, you know, lumens in there.
Yeah.
So, or excuse me,
nits.
Thank you.
Nits, yeah.
I was blanking on it.
Yeah,
so
it was really bright.
Yeah. Like Mike said, I mean, it was like looking at an
technical
OLED.
term, really bright.
Well, and Michael was in that front row as well, so it was definitely a little bright when we were going in there.
I'm like, holy cow!
Yeah,
it looked beautiful. Truly,
it's amazing. Well, and it's fun to be able to see because so often in all of our groups, we're chatting and the discussion is like, do I go projection? Do I go, you know, flat panel? I know Giles loves the idea of doing video walls, you know, for a lot of solutions or where it's, you know, where it works. I love the idea of being able to do kind of a tiling setup. I think that's super cool. And, you know, brands like Ascendo and, you know, they're all coming in with these, like the director, you know, things that are basically able to bounce off screen and get, you know, right to those seats, you know, I think that'll continue to get better. We also saw a few that go against everything that we've always learned about comb filtering, but that's because meaning that they have a center channel on top and a center channel on bottom. And so we saw that in a few places in CEDIA as well. But that's because we have technologies and DSPs that, you know, we never really talked about before. Before it was just playing the two together and you would always end up with this comb filter. But now they're really able to do it and it sounds pretty good. So, you know, I think you're going to see a lot more, you know, video screens and panels and just large screens. Somebody was showing me the other day. I think it was in Big AV, one of the forum groups that I'm in. And so the Big AV group was talking about a Walmart TV, 97 inches for like $1,800.
Yeah. $1,500.
$1,500, you know? And I'm like, granted, I mean, there's better processing, there's things like that. But for a secondary room or something like that, or, you know, even for a primary room, because we all have our budgets. I mean, now you're basically, you know, you're 100 inches for $1,500.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why you don't have some sort of theater kind of setup, you know, even in a media room. That's just a killer deal.
I'm waiting for somebody to buy 4 of those and put it into a 4-panel array, you know, old school style, not like a real LED.
Yeah, that's right. I got to see how,
like, here's my 200-inch screen.
Yeah,
who's got that wall?
Yeah,
that's a huge wall.
Yeah,
it's definitely interesting in there. So, what else did we see, Mike? What else? You know, we got to tour around a little bit. Like I said, we did the Trinov booth. We saw Epson. We saw a few guys. What stood out to you at CEDIA as outside Sound Room 4? Like, what was that killer demo that you really loved?
For me personally, not being a projector guy, I got one buddy who has a projector. So I've seen his, and his is very impressive. But for the most part, I don't really have any projector experience. And the JVC room, seeing their projectors, the JVCs were very impressive. I really thought they looked great. The Sony 9, when the Sony Bravia 9, when they did the comparison between that and the Bravia 7, it was pretty cool to see how their tone mapping changed the image and how much better the Bravia 9 was than the 7. So I don't know if my ear is just not discerning enough to pick out all the differences and details, but for the most part, with the exception of per listen, for whatever, it's completely subjective. For whatever reason, I love per listen speakers. I heard the per listens and I thought they were just amazing. But with the exception of that, I was big into the video stuff. As I sit back and think, you know, over the last few weeks of being away from CEDIA, I think the video stuff had more of an impact on me than the audio stuff, mainly because I could tell the difference in the video stuff more than I could tell the difference in the audio.
Well, and it's interesting because on Saturday we went and we went through one of the demos that was out there. where Mike made a comment, totally right, that he just didn't get the demo as much because they kept playing the same songs and they kept doing this and that and kind of going back and forth, right? And in the moment, like, I understood exactly what you meant, Mike, and that's that's your opinion on it, and and it's right. I understand exactly what you mean. What's interesting is that because it is a dealer show, and I was kind of explaining this to Mike, is that they're trying to show the differences between products, right? Or to show that timbre is, dead on across all these different products. Here's how you do it. It just depends on what you need, right? And so, but when we're used to going into these demos, we just want to hear explosions and we want to hear this and that. And, I've heard it even in Sound Room 4, which we know had the capability. I know a few people put in there like, I just didn't get the content, because I think they were looking for the next Marvel movie kind of, Big Crash and the John Wicks, which are always fun. But sometimes you want, the 2-channel music or the, you're really trying to show what the speaker can do in terms of detail, rather than just how loud it gets. So, I thought they were, all of it was really cool. I definitely get that. The Perlisten sound great. They're always on my short list of, of speaker brands. And then, the JVC room that had Grimani speakers in it, that one looked and sounded great. But you could kind of see in kind of a bare bones room, you could still get this just amazingly brilliant picture. And then the Sony demo, which was the first time I had ever seen anything like that, it was killer because they basically showed and who did everybody see the Sony demo in here?
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Yeah. So Giles, why don't you tell us instead of me telling it? What was the big draw in that Sony demo? What made it so amazing?
Oh, it was the LED wall for sure. I mean, the brightness. It's ridiculous. I mean,
Red's thinking we're going this direction. Giles says I'm going straight to the video wall.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it was a Wisdom audio system, which was great, right? It was awesome. It sounded good, but maybe you guys are talking about the other room. But
we meant the projector room.
Always goes to the video wall.
I
projector.
It was all right.
I like what was saying about that Sony 9 projector. Well, let me
tell you about a video wall.
It was all right.
Classic.
No, their video wall was absolutely amazing.
And that, in my opinion, that was too bright.
Too bright.
I don't know what
the video wall, Michael.
They hotted it up on purpose for sure.
Yeah. Holy cow!
Yeah,
they played Lucy.
Yes.
And when it went all white, I mean, my eyes squinted so small, like, wow.
Yeah, it was like looking into the Christie.
It was nuts.
Yeah, don't do that, DJ.
But the good thing, what they're showing is, okay, we have this potential, kind of like you do with your speakers. This is our potential. But of course, with the LED wall, you can back down the brightness. Same thing. You can buy a Christie, use 30% brightness, and you gain all that contrast. And so there's a benefit to that. But I was like, holy cow, man.
It was bright. Anybody, so where I guess I would lean in there too was the kind of the challenge or the switch back and forth between the 7000 series and the Sony 9 projector.
Yeah.
I thought
it's okay.
It's okay.
But I thought it was killer for showing the difference in resolution, for showing the difference in HDR, for showing, all the colors and everything else, which their 7000, it wasn't their top one, but like
it was a good projector.
That was a solid projector in the 27,000 range. So top for a lot of us.
Well, what I found interesting about that is a company was willing to show, not that the 7000 was a bad projector, but just how much they're improving on the performance of what they already had. And so there were scenes where you would have a moon behind, I always forget, it's like a wolf.
Yeah.
And in Alpha, is it called Alpha?
Alpha.
So the moon behind it was literally just like blown out. Like you didn't even know there was a moon back there on the 7000. And then they, you're looking at the same image, or they switch over to the Bravia 9, you're like, oh, dang. So the dynamic tone mapping in that is much better, much more improvement. And that's what's cool about CEDIA is we get to see the latest, the greatest. We see the innovation in the remotes. We get to see the innovation in the subwoofers and the projectors and the AVRs and all that. So definitely a cool opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't know, Michael, if you were you in there after the media event in the morning when the guy, I think Giles, you were in there, the guy doing the presentation kept saying, not that there's anything wrong with the 7000, but the new 9 just does it so much better. He kept trying to clarify. I found that so funny.
Yeah. He didn't know what to say.
See the moon, dude.
Yeah. And also, you know, the fact that JVC kind of got caught with their pants down there because they were doing a comparison in their training sessions of their new projector versus that. I think it was a 7000. They didn't know the new projectors were coming out. So they were doing kind of an antiquated, you know, training session.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the one thing, right? Like, you know, do you take it against the JVC? It was a big deal to pitch it against their own product. Again, now CEDIA is for dealers, so you want to be able to show them the difference so that, you know, as a dealer now, I can explain to you as a customer, you know, how much different this is, right?
Why you want to upgrade, whatever.
Yeah, you know, or if you're buying one or looking at that, you know, here's the difference between them. But yeah, I think for a lot of people too, at least a lot of the dealers that I spoke to and people there, JVC has obviously been a favored on the projection side for years. You know, I'm always a big Sony fan. I think they make the best panels. You know, when it came to projectors, it was kind of always a, you know, they were good, but JVC usually had a little benefit in black
because they had the tone mapping. JVC had the tone mapping,
and now Sony's got all that in there. They showed how much better than a 7000 it was, and I think that's going to make a lot of people think this year, as those stories are getting out there and the rest, that you know, okay, you know, I was maybe leaning towards the JVC, and now I may have to lean towards the Sony.
Yeah, don't sleep on Epson either.
Well,
I mean, they've got their new QB 1000, so I mean that's going to be a big time challenger. If people can get over the fact that it's 1080p imagers with 4-way shifting, but it's all 4K. You know, they have all the 4K pixels showing at the same exact time. So I personally don't have a problem with it. I mean, they're getting more light output using it. So, but I think there's going to be people out there that won't be able to get over that.
The other thing is, like I liked about the Sony demonstration was, obviously you go 7000, no tone mapping, and the new 9 has the tone mapping. It's the video processing that's the most important. And Michael, it was a couple of years ago, you did that video where you compared all the, like, what was it, like 10 projectors or something? You were in that, but you were running. At the time, it was MadVR didn't even exist at the time. They did, but it was the computer version. So it literally leveled the field for all these projectors. And remember, people were saying, I remember watching your video, and they're like, it's a $2,000 Epson or something. And it went head to head with a $30,000 JVC. Yeah. Because once you take the brains out of the projector and put it into an external video processor, that's where the important part is. And that's what that Sony was demonstrating, is like, here's the new brains of Sony. Look at what we can do. And JVC's been doing it for years, but now Sony's putting it on board as well. Yeah. And
I'm sure we'll see some comparisons down the road of those two. And I know I saw MW said it's really cheeky of JVC. My understanding, JVC didn't put that on.
No,
I don't think.
It was third party. So definitely,
and they had third-party calibrator. I think they had JVC representatives there, and
they did. I didn't know they didn't put it on, but they did have reps down there.
I'm sure they probably sponsored it or did something in there because somebody's got to rent the room.
And that's not the first time they've done that, though. They've done that many years. I mean, all the manufacturers are.
Oh yeah, well, even M-Wave, we had comparisons. We had, you know, so there's plenty of options to be able to see that, and to put the new ones head to head. Yeah. You know, I want to do that in my theater. It'll be built for 2 projectors so that I can kind of, you know, compare 2 side by side.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely try to get those 2 in there at some point with it as well. But
yeah, Jonathan Von England on his channel recently just did a comparison of the LS12000 and one of the new Epson projectors, and it was just really cool. Yeah, like, I mean, you're seeing them side by side. So, you know, things like that. I think we'll see somebody do a comparison between the JVC whatever and the new Sony, whatever that comparison is.
Well, even to that, that point on the Epson side. So, I mean, they came out with their heavy hitting lumen output,
Yes.
projector as well.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like with it, I got it and they did a great job in all the different rooms. I thought that should have been the home theater projection room. Like if you're going to put something like that to show HDR, they had it. That was the first one on the left. That the screen was huge. So, I mean, they did an amazing job with full lights on in the room, and that projector still looked crisp. But what I wanted to see going in there, I guess my expectation was that I was going to see it in a home theater, kind of, in one of the demo rooms, similar to what you'd see with the Christie's or the Barcos or the Sonys or the JVCs. So that was the only thing, because it was such a cool product that a lot of people wanted to see. I thought that should have been in where instead they put, I think, the 1000, the base one in the in their home theater room.
They put the 1000 and the 3000 in the home theater room. They had two in there, but there is actually a reason why they had the bigger heavy hitter out in the light room is because they had done market research and they found that these high-end installs are really shifting towards these giant, bright, multi-use rooms. And these installers were basically like, look, we need something that can light up a screen in a super bright room, but we also need a high dollar projector. We can't roll into a $150,000 build out and say, yeah, we're going to put in your $4,000 Epson model. So there's a lot of specific reasons why they were pushing it in that bright environment, because they're really trying to go after that kind of product use application.
Well, and commercial.
But I agree with you. I'd like to.
It
would be awesome to see that thing in an actual dark environment.
Yeah, because if you're able to do that, I mean, that'll hit the nits that you need for HDR. That hits, all the brightness that you could possibly want. Now, again, competing against a large, flat panel screen or a video wall screen. So, I'm curious to see. Both sides are getting, better and better. I saw the Just Video Wall guys, that were in there, and so they were showing, I think a 0.1 and a 0.9 or a 0.12 and a 9 or somewhere in there. But I know one of them was a 0.9, and from a few feet away, it looks great. You don't really see a gridding, you don't really see all that kind of stuff. So I think those products are getting better and better, and I can't wait to see how all those go as well.
Well, Brett, and you're missing out on the best one of the entire show. The Quantum Media Systems.
The Quantum.
Yeah, in my opinion, I mean, that's the best product shown at CEDIA, in my opinion. That thing is insane.
Yeah, I think that one was at what, 0.7?
I
think it was lower than that.
I can't
it might have been. Well, you know what? Assuming it was last year, I think last year's was 0.7. So I think it was basically the same panel, with some new processing
and they're DCI certified too, which is
cool. Right. Which is very cool.
Giles, did you like that one?
Oh, the Quantum? Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
That's the one you walk out of and you're like, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Oh,
it's
no doubt. It's
pretty intense.
It was just an amazing wall in there. Again, you're looking at the high dollar price point for that. Versus a lot of the other video walls that are out there.
It's not one kidney, it's both of them.
Yes. But I think that's where I kind of look at it when we start getting into what do I need, right? I think video walls are kind of a gray area, like projectors, like speakers, like all those things have been in the past, where what dot pitch do I need? If you don't know those things, it's like, well, I looked at this wall and it didn't really look all that great, or I could see the gridding and everything else. Well, that's because it's a 0.15, 0.2 point, which means you need to be way further back. Great for commercial. But once you start getting into like 0.9, I think you're really in an area where, if you're 8-10 feet away, it's just a phenomenal picture. And
anything that's sub 1 is pretty good. When you get down to the 0.7, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
If you're 15 feet back, you can do like a 1.2 and it's all right. But anything bigger than that, you're into like signage.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
You're at a mall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny. Giles and I bust on each other. Like if we passed each other in the airport, I'd yell projector, he'd yell video wall. But he's right. I mean, the video walls they do ruin you for projectors. right? Because you go in there and you're like, I mean, a projector just can't get to those black levels and those brightnesses, and without being in a completely dark room. Like Christie was amazing. That's about as close as I've ever seen a projector get. But these video walls are absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
But then they tell you the price, and you're like, "Oh, I love projectors."
Yeah.
They're still stunning.
You're
They're
like,
stunning in a bad way at that point.
That's right. That $35,000 Christie projector isn't sounding so bad now.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the truth.
You know,
Yeah.
but that's in a lot of it, right? I mean, it's how
Yeah.
big do you want it? And video walls they're coming along. I mean, you can't say that
They'll
they're
come
not.
down.
10
but
years.
you know,
They'll be
yeah.
4
But if you're truly looking
4
at
years.
that level,
10.
4 years.
10.
Or I go
No
with
way,
Giles
Giles.
because the
What's
tech is
affordable,
moving so
Giles?
fast.
I can
So
do it. In 6 months.
here's the dirty secret, right? So like just video walls, you know, they're buying
Mhm.
stuff that's in OEMing it, right?
Mhm.
And so, you know, you can get the stuff that they sell for 60, you could buy for 30 now, if you know who to buy it from. But you don't get the expertise. They're not easy to set up at all, right? And that's why you really need just video walls, because they bring the expertise and they understand the process and all that stuff, right? But man, for 168 inch that's stunning for 30 grand right now, 4 years, 10 years, you're absolutely right, for sure. You're absolutely sure.
Everybody be able to afford it in 10. Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah, I think it's going to be sooner where it's. I mean, think about just on the TV side, the 100-inch TV. It's like what, 2 years ago, the world just totally changed, and we were all like.
But I think the
98?
difference there is how long have we had TVs versus how long have we had video walls. So that technology is really, really fresh
It takes a while.
compared to TV world.
I mean, I remember
It's different, but I think there's enough similarity and enough crossover in the fab facilities
Okay.
where it's not going to be the same amount of time.
Yeah.
And what just video walls is doing with their prepackaged, I think they're calling it the ledge.
The lunar ledge.
The lunar ledge. Yeah, I mean, that is really cool, I think. I mean, if out of their product showing, I think that's the coolest part about what they're doing is having those pre-configured systems that are boxed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
You can see it going that direction for us, the consumer. Eventually, you'll roll down to Best Buy or whatever and pick up your pre-boxed video wall, go home and assemble
Video
it.
Lego
Off
kit.
Yeah.
the reality is other than, you know, those of us here in general and the, you know, and people watching, most people, they're looking at video far more than they're looking at audio. You know, they're not putting tower speakers in. They're not, you know, they're not looking at AT walls, you know, and all these different things to it. They just want a bigger screen, you know, and so, you know, and are often willing and rightfully so. They'll take the 97-inch, even though it's not going to look nearly as good at $1,500 as, say, the Sony comparison or something else, but it works and it's amazing. And everybody walks in and they're still like, "Oh my god, that's 97 inches." And I think that's, you know, one of those things that on the video side it adopts faster, you know, than when we get into projectors and the rest, where you know, we're seeing better products coming out constantly. But it's still a very niche market. Whereas video walls, like every movie you've ever seen for the past 20 or 30 years, when they flash forward to even today or earlier.
That was in Total Recall.
Yeah, Back to the Future. I mean, all these, the idea was that you always had a, you know, a full wall, basically, right? You know, that you could change around. So I think there's some really cool stuff.
The other part about the video wall, though, is, and Giles and I have debated this one, is like, because I've always said, like, where are you going to put your speakers?
Yeah.
Because the wall takes up so much, and you can't do an AT video wall, right? But in that Sony room, what did you guys think of the demo on how they moved the sound up? Just with their processing, with the, I think it was not a standard, but their top of the line receiver. But all the speakers were down below the screen, but because of their processing, and they used the height channels and everything to triangulate, pull that audio up into the middle of the screen. I thought it was a pretty good job. I don't think it was equal to having your speakers right behind the screen. But most people would probably never know the difference. And that's, I gotta think that's pretty rudimentary right now.
Well, Storm Audio has that coming out in their next firmware update.
Yeah. So there you go.
So
that's a big thing.
I mean, it's going to be a thing for sure.
Storm
Lifting
and Trinoff will
dialogue.
have it, and then it'll trickle down to consumer commodity.
Den and Marantz will have it. And But
Yeah,
it is.
everybody
I
else
mean,
looks
that's
at your
pretty
ass.
cool thing. I had
Yeah,
never
very
experienced that before, and after hearing it that way, what I just heard there, it's like I'm like, all right. I mean, that's
yeah,
legit.
it's not a bad
It's
solution.
legit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, these guys weren't at CEDIA, or at least not that I saw, but I've been seeing them getting posted everywhere. So the new Valerians. So I know there's a couple versions, and there's like the big boy version that's
The plus
that's coming out.
2 and the what's the other one? I dropped a video for the plus 2, and then there's another one that's out right now, or at least engineering samples are available. And then they'll have the Pro 2 and the Max coming out. Pro 2 at the end of this year, and the Max in 25. And the Max is going to have lens shift. It's going to have adjustable iris, dynamic iris. And something else, optical zoom in the lens itself.
Gotcha.
It's a 1080p shifter, tri-laser RGB, and for $2,000, woo, they're making some waves. Now they're not gonna take down, a $30,000 or a $20,000 JVC or whatever. But man, this is crazy.
Yep.
Curious to see the contrast.
As long as we check out the contrast, check out the build performance on it. The reality is, you still got to look at those things, because nobody wants to buy a projector to get rid of in 2 years.
Right.
But at those prices, it's a great stepping stone as well.
Yeah.
But I think them and like I said, Epson, are kind of those candidates in the in the big lumen range where for a reasonable price you can kind of get into those products. So I'm curious to be able to to check them out. I think I saw your post on it the other day, Giles, and then
people love to hate on the Valerian though. Whew, it's hard when you put this into a home theater group and talk about it. There's a lot of pushback on these guys.
The one thing I can't get over though, and it's not just them, there's other brands, but just the form factor.
Oh, the box.
No, I don't know what it is about it, but it rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, that just looks so cheap for whatever reason. It shouldn't.
It does.
But my brain tells me this thing looks cheap. It's like a square box.
It's
like an
much
amplifier.
smaller than the big projectors. It's completely different. You're totally right, and it's a lot. People, even I had a block when I got it. I'm all like, I don't know, but the proof's kind of in the pudding.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. So this is
pudding?
this is pudding. Pudding. So this is an adaptation of the AWOL ultra short throw projection technology, right? Yeah. So they said, okay, we're going to do long throw, and we're going to create this other company. I don't know all the shenanigans on the back end, but they're using that adapted technology, and this is Gen 1, right? Yeah. So I just say keep your eye on it, because the world continues to change, and this is another evolution for projection, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the established brands, the Epsons, the Sonys, the JVCs. Maybe not on the Christies and the Barcos,
but even there, they're trying to crack into the residential side, right? Like, like those are the products that work from a commercial standpoint, because they have to. They're they're on the floor at at your basketball game. They're doing all this and that. But even there, and to Todd's point earlier, like they do a lens shift as well, an E shift, but it looks really good. And so I think for a lot of people, we love to hate on the no, it's not 4K native, or Valerian is a brand new brand. Let's not talk about them. But at the end of the day, new technologies are coming out, and even something that you saw way back when, it's like Class D amplifiers as well. That was always something just for subwoofers and super low end, and you would never do it. Nowadays, your top amplifiers are being all, Class D, so that they can get them faster, lighter. They don't heat up as much. And then they're tossing DSP in there to really be able to do some room correction and stuff like that. You end up with a better experience, So I always think it's interesting in there. Were you going to say something, DJ?
Yeah. The other thing is stuff like this is how we all started. Everybody here sitting here in this room with us, everybody watching. I mean, even Mikey, who just went to CEDIA for the first time, the experiences we've had over the years and what our eyes and ears can hear. If you could go back to when you first started, take that brain and see what we're seeing now, you'd be blown away, right? it's this stuff here that the Valerian or like SVS coming out with their things, or when Chris started, Seymour, and he's coming in and undercutting the market and giving the newbies something to grasp onto, to be like, hey, I don't know the difference yet, but oh my God, look at the size of that picture. I got a projector and it looks like an amplifier, but who cares? But now you get into it and you're into the hobby, and it maybe, like I always used to sell, or I still do, get the biggest display you can get. Doesn't matter the quality, because you don't know the difference yet, right? And then you learn and grow into it, and then maybe you find out it is really just an amplifier, but you've learned, and now you get a better projector. But it's that part of the journey of learning and coming in at entry level pricing or something lower, but it's maybe promising something that maybe it can't deliver, but it's going to get people into the hobby and get people excited,
Just as long as you don't learn in the first week, because that next year of saving is going to be painful.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's the getting you into the hobby, and now you still have 5 levels of upgrades that you have to get before you think you're at your end game.
It's my son-in-law is like where I was at his age. He's 25 years old, and he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And he watches all of these channels, all of you guys, and he's like, what does this mean? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just do what you want to do, because as you do what you do, then you start listening to everybody, and then that starts, I know what they're talking about now. And then it rings true. Trying to duplicate what people have been doing for 30 years, guys like that have had that much experience, you can't. It's so hard, because it's all in your eyes and ears, and you need to tune that.
Yep. No, I agree. And again, in a lot of these, we all start somewhere. We all do, this and that, and we all have to grow into it. The only things I always say is, get the education up front. Because if you understand the differences between things, then you can tell the difference between just some marketing spin and does this fit the core of how audio works, right? Or how video works. And so, understanding that just because whatever lumen it says doesn't always mean that that's the same thing. Or just because it says infinite contrast ratio, that just means it does black and it does white.
Right. It turns off and it turns on.
Yeah, that doesn't say anything about the quality that, for all the shades of gray that are in between.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main piece with it. And that's, one of the things that, I always love having you guys on here, and AA, which I think he's one of your guys, right, Giles? I'm sure he's probably on most, but
he's an everybody guy. He's a good dude.
Right? But I know I've seen him on the channel. I would love to do that. Everybody's always busy because we all have multiple channels. But I love stuff like this, to that same point. And, even a lot of the education that I'm planning to do. So today we kind of talked about each of the categories of products in let's say Sound Room 4 in general, right? We talked about projectors, processors, speakers, subwoofers, screens, and the rest. What I'm planning to do over the next, basically between now and let's say the weeks before Christmas and holidays, is every other week or so, pick a topic. Like, let's dig into processors, and let's talk about them, but let's look at them realistically, right? And I think that it's about the education more than anything else. What are we saying in here?
You don't want to know.
I don't want to know. Okay.
It's
not a problem. So,
oh my god.
The one thing I'll say on here, and I see a few of the comments, as they're floating through.
Mm-hmm.
We all have different products. Like, none of us in this room are sitting on $1 million theater. We get to play with stuff. Yes, we've maybe upgraded through the years, and we've done some stuff because we love this and we've been doing it for a while. But be happy with what you got, and don't worry about what other people have and what they're talking about. We're talking about kind of the top pinnacles of technology that will eventually, as we've all kind of been saying, trickle down into those lower products, right? That more people can afford. But I look at, especially if I take a brand like Storm, like they partner with Dirac, to do live, but they also have art, which they're the only processor that can do art. And it's not even like, because I've asked, and both the Dirac guys and the Storm guys, it's not because they licensed it to be the only ones. It's because they literally are the only ones with enough horsepower to do a Dirac art processor. Because I always ask, like, as CEDIA came out, I'm like, So is there going to be another art? Is there going to be a competitor to the Storm? It's like, not yet. And that's where, hopefully again that creates a step up for, let's say, a Marantz, if not a Denon, then at least a Marantz, to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna step up my processor capabilities just a little bit more so that I could actually run art, or let's say audio control, or one of those guys that can do that, and that's going to be better for everybody. And now you've got a product that wouldn't be 20, 30 grand. So my thing is, it's fun to look at the new stuff. I wouldn't turn down a ride in a sports car that that I can't buy or can't afford. I'm gonna take it every time.
That is kind of the downside to covering an event like this, and then all that information getting out. You do see a lot of comments from people bemoaning the fact that everything's so expensive, and we've talked about this before. I think, Michael, you were on with me and Brett. Actually, maybe all you guys were on, where a lot of it's just about setup. What taking the time to set up what you have properly. You can get so much out of a budget system. And budget's just, it's, people think it's a dirty word. It's not.
I will say,
shame.
Everybody in this room has been on my show, and before I was at CEDIA, after I was at CEDIA, I talked about these rooms. We are not that far off with our setups, right? And none of them. And when I was there for the first time, I was like, oh my God, I went and I couldn't wait to tell everybody. I'm like, these are $1 million rooms, and our theaters are not that far. You're talking 1-2% difference. And then when Mike was there, that's the first thing I asked him afterwards. I was like, Mike, go ahead, you tell him. It's like, these are $1 million rooms, and you've experienced, Johnny speakers with the projector. You've got an OLED. I've been in a bunch of people's theaters. So is Michael. And you go in these $1 million rooms, and Mike, tell him.
I thought I would go to CEDIA and hate coming home to my system, and I actually love coming home to my system, because my system, granted, it's not as good as what I heard at CEDIA, but it's damn close, and it's by all means a budget system. I don't have anything crazy, and it sounds amazing. I love my system more now because of hearing the super high end stuff.
Because you're close. You've done, and I've been in Mike's room. He did all his calibration. He's running all SVS speakers. He tuned it just right. He didn't go over. He can't get the bass that he wants because it's an open room, but he did everything right. His pans, everything. It's an amazing experience. And for him to come out of $1 million room, out of sound room 4, and get the confidence that he got out of his theater, and that's the biggest battle, right? Online, everybody with the FOMO, like, did I screw up? Did this happen? Did this happen? And to have somebody like, Mike come in and go, I've never been there, probably never going back, but he really doesn't need to, because now he knows.
Right. Oh, he's coming back next year for sure.
He's outside the door.
Be there, Mike.
Come
on, one of us now.
Not
you're in, you're in. Now you're in.
Brett, not on my dime.
Not on my dime.
Brett said he was going to buy you a house in downtown Denver so you can just live out there full time.
Well, that's it just.
People can make reservations. I'm taking reservations right now.
That's right. Airbnb, CEDIA 2025.
Giles will be tanning in front of his video wall.
I'll have my nuclear reactor in the backyard to power it.
That's right. No, I agree though. They're phenomenal systems to play with. Most of us can't drive those rooms, even that room, you guys. And actually, this is one of the comments that I'll say that I want to talk about is, when we were in there, we were talking about the fact that room was only running at like 5%, right? At one point it was, it was like 1 or 2%, but let's say it's 5%. What I love, and I even had this conversation with all the brands and the Sound Room 4 guys, was, I want to see a system that runs at 50%, because then it could be less, right? You could probably get that same amount of bass in there with 6 subs that you could with 12. Now this is a show, and so they're kind of blowing it up big and everything else, and it sounds amazing. But if 12 subs at 5%, then 6 subs easily, at 50% driving it. And I think that's true in a lot of these pieces. So again, you don't need as many. is all these different products. And again, if you understand the heart of acoustics and how they work, then building the room is the first piece, because I can make any speaker sound good in a good room. And then getting pressurization, because that's the biggest thing that people are missing and why they don't feel like they get the bass. So all you have to do is pressurize the room. If it's accurate and it pressurizes, that's what you need. And then realistically, I'm always of the opinion that, because so many people love I want a 24-inch or a 16-inch, but give me 4 12s in the corners so that I don't have nulls, and high points and everything else. And that's the foundation. That's the starting block. If I can pressurize my room at that, then I only need one big speaker to do infrasonics. And I think that's the something that people don't think about is that, yes, it's a math problem in my mind. It's cool to look at different subs. It's cool to look at different processors. It's everything else, but we're all pretty close to there. And you're going to get a lot closer than everybody else if you spend the time on your room.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Reese in the chat, if you want to pull that up, speaker placement is so important as well. People a lot of people don't know the room is making the sound.
Oh yeah.
All the speaker does is it moves the air for you, and then that creates the sound. That's what's in the room. Everything is containing the air, and if it's not done appropriately, it's not going to work. It's not going to work right. So you can have the best speakers in the world, but it's a poor setup, a poor room, it really doesn't matter. It's that room is the first piece, and everybody goes backwards. How many times do you hear people talking about like changing my speakers? I can't hear this thing right. They got no room treatments, but they can't understand dialogue. Yeah. Oh my God. I've been through 6 tenor channels and nothing sounds right. Yeah. Because it's going past you, bouncing off the back wall, hitting you in the front.
That's right.
Yeah.
No doubt. So I know you guys, it's Friday night. I appreciate all you guys being on here. I appreciate everybody. We got 86 live people on here.
Awesome,
plus
guys.
I'm sure a few others that the number doesn't show me when we're all streaming at the same time.
That's awesome.
This was a great chat. I agree. I would love to have everybody on here, and we do these things a little bit more regularly.
Sure.
And in the meantime, I'll be having, like I said, in each of my 2-week topics, everybody's invited. So like I said, anybody that wants to join on one of those discussions, and for everybody here, check out everybody's sites. Check out mine. I appreciate it. And yeah, Reese, good to see you. Reese, if you guys don't know, so he's been Control 4, now he's at Macintosh, and enjoying the move over there. So like I said, a great guy. I got to work with him a little bit. But yeah, so let's wrap it up. I know everybody
got 10 seconds. So I texted,
please.
I texted Evan earlier with Seymour. Y'all had mentioned, how much was their screen? So
yeah,
how much? What were the thoughts?
The one
I thought
room
30,000. I
thought it was around 20.
I saw somebody say 20. Any other guesses?
I thought
25,
60.
30K is, I think that's in the zone.
Yeah, it should be a little bit more than
Probably
that.
gonna be
With the 4-way and
$59,245.
I went over
$60,000.
60 grand. Yeah.
Now though, so what's special about that
it's
screen
huge.
is that
awesome.
so the screen itself was huge.
Yeah.
But that screen material, which is the harder part of it, they're able to do 40 foot tall and basically
massive,
which again doesn't hit all of us, but like you can do a theater screen in one cut.
Yeah.
With no seams. That's what makes that screen so expensive. But they've got the version down can do 20 feet. Still plenty for all of us. But yeah, no,
there you go, Michael. You can get that one.
That's right. You get that one.
10%
off.
Deal on that
The
one.
bargain.
Absolutely. Well, I love it, you guys.
Cool, man.
I want to make sure everybody gets out to their Friday nights. Thank you, especially everybody on the East Coast. Thank you everybody for watching. Definitely check out everybody's channel.
Brett,
yeah,
thank you, man.
Absolutely.
The experience that I had was truly once in a lifetime. I could never thank you enough. I had an amazing time. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
you were
super
absolutely
cool.
welcome,
Generous.
Mike.
Awesome.
I'm glad I was able to make it happen. And I'm hoping that next year, if I can get enough subscribers and everybody to show everybody why they need to let us do events like this at CEDIA, then I can invite a couple more people to get to experience it as well. So thank you to everybody. We got a big group here, so I think we'll just all say goodbye. And definitely be sure to check out everybody's channels. Wrong button.